Thank you, sir. I recognize Mr. Sherman from California, the Golden State.
Thank you. 5.5 hours of talking about Gitmo under the lights in this building, in this room, strike me as well beyond what the Army Field Manual would allow. And so I'm going to ask you questions on a completely different subject. And that is the subject of what your relationship with the other departments of the federal government, your colleagues in the cabinet, and what you should do or would do if you saw that those other cabinet were clearly violating the law. And there are a couple of instances I want to bring to your attention and that I hope that you would have your lawyers review to see if you agree with me that these are violations of the law. The first is the Iran Sanctions Act, which, among other things, requires the State Department to name those oil companies and others that are investing in the oil sector in Iran. Now, for 10 years, the State Department has refused to do so, explaining to me that our friends in Europe would be offended if they were to follow that statutory requirement. Seems to me a deliberate failure to carry out the law would be something that the Justice Department would be concerned about. The second issue is of more recent vintage and deals with the TARP, the bank bailout bill, in which the Secretary of the Treasury has announced that whatever monies are repaid by the banks will then be recycled into other bailout expenditures or investments, even though the statute is very clear that money is supposed to go into the general fund of the Treasury. And so my questions for you are, will you have the Justice Department look at these two legal issues and get back to me? Will you inform your colleagues of the results of that review? And what action should your department take if it's not, in your opinion, a gray area, but you see another cabinet official, in the view of you and your lawyers, just clearly failing to follow the law?
I'll certainly look at the fact situations that you described, and we will get back to you with regard to an answer. And if there is a problem that we identify, then share that concern or do more, whatever is appropriate, with the two other departments. With regard to your larger question, to the extent that we in the Justice Department see a deficiency that another department, a legal deficiency that another department has, we would certainly share that view with them. Obviously, to the extent that we saw crimes occurring in other departments, we would investigate them. And so I think that's
if a cabinet officer or sub-cabinet officer just takes money that's appropriated for one purpose and spends it on another purpose, or takes funds that are supposed to be in the general fund or returned to the general fund and just decides to do something else with it. Obviously, if they're in the gray zone, I mean, different lawyers can differ on some things, but we have to agree that some things are clear enough that you can say something is clearly a violation. What penalties are imposed on a cabinet officer? And is Congress basically just an advisory body where cabinet officers can just do what they want and face no penalties for violating or failing to comply with statute?
No, I mean, every cabinet officer is responsible for obviously following the law, the regulations that exist, and to the extent there is a gray area in their questions, the Office of Legal Counsel at the Justice Department is really, I think, entrusted with the final say as to what the law is. If there's a dispute between state, for instance, and the Interior Department, state and justice, I don't know, the dispute can be, and it's a legal question. The Office of Legal Counsel can view the facts, apply the law, and then come up with a determination, issue an opinion.
But if somebody just ignores the opinion, or if in the predecessor administration there were people who who did things that were clearly illegal and spent money that was clearly not appropriated by Congress for that purpose, are they civilly liable, criminally liable, or do we just sweep it under the rug?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is, so many of those questions are fact-specific. You'd have to know, there's the possibility, I suppose, of personal liability. There's the question of personal criminal liability. There's the possibility of personal civil liability. There are potential institutional issues that just have to be worked out if, in fact, one of the institutions of government is conducting itself, and has for years, in a way that's inconsistent with statutes or regulations, and that's brought to my attention, then the president may have to get involved. Congress has the ability to conduct oversight hearings.
Well, oversight hearings don't actually force anybody to do anything. As to the two issues that you're going to resolve, I realize that the administration can waive imposing sanctions on companies that invest in the Iran oil sector, but they have to be publicly named. And as to the TARP legislation, I will get you my legal analysis, and you can tell me whether it's right or wrong.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jordan has, from Ohio, will graciously